And O'Brien, this is 20 important historical topics. The Indus Valley Civilization was founded on floodplains and in between the Indus and Sarasvati rivers. The predictable flooding made it easy for them to have agriculture, and they had plumbing systems and irrigation systems that were very famous. Ancient Egypt was along the Nile River similarly, and they used basin irrigation systems. They also had pyramids built for pharaohs who they believed became gods after death. Mesopotamia also had rivers that bordered it, but the rivers flooded unpredictably and were very violent. They had the Code of Hammurabi, the code that had severe punishments for the laws. Confucius was a philosopher who believed he was heaven sent to make the world more harmonious, and his teachings were taught through the Analects, and it was later known as Confucianism. Alexander the Great gained his reputation by never losing a battle. He conquered all of the Persian Empire, and his death is often exaggerated. People think he was poisoned, but he was actually just died of a fever. Buddhism was inspired by the Prince Siddhartha Gautama, who reached nirvana under a tree during meditation. He taught the Four Noble Truths that life is suffering. Suffering comes from desire, and by getting rid of desire, you end your suffering. The Roman Empire held a great portion of the world due to their technological advancements. They had land that made it very difficult for enemies to attack them, but also made it very easy for them to get access to other things. Feudalism. Feudalism had lords and vassals. The lords owned the land while the vassals protected the land. Farmers and peasants living on the land had to farm in order to be protected. The Black Death was said to have started in Asia in the 1300s, and it later went to Europe. Symptoms consisted of blood and pus and boils on the skin, and it was carried by fleas. They believed it was a punishment from God. The Hundred Years' War was between France and England over who would get to claim rule to portions of continental Europe. They had the code of chivalry, but kings hired mercenaries to kill anyway during truces. Islam began with Muhammad meeting the angel Gabriel, who taught him to spread the word of God. The Quran is the five pillar system, also taught in the Quran. Mansa Musa was an emperor in ancient Africa, ruling over Mali, and he followed the Muslim faith, and he made the journey to Mecca, and in the process put his people in an economic crash by giving away all of his gold. The Silk Road is a route between the Mediterranean, Central Asia, and China, and it gave a lot of people jobs with making silk or trading. The Mongols were a nomadic group, and Genghis Khan ruled over them. He would let people who were conquered into his group, giving him the upper hand often. The Mayans had a scarcity of water, and they believed that their holy lords controlled the water and distributed it in favor of food and labor. The Inca civilization was one of the wealthiest empires, and it's on mountain ranges, and they made many roads on these mountain ranges in tough terrain. The Renaissance period is a rebirth of art, culture, and philosophy, and the printing press helped carry all of this around. Sadly, the lower class citizens who couldn't read weren't able to participate as much. Protestant Reformation started with Martin Luther in the 16th century. Martin Luther believed that salvation could be only given through faith, and that no one's free of sin. The Enlightenment period was an era brought forward to look back on rights and political reform. And the Columbian Exchange gave a bunch of new resources, but it also brought a lot of deadly diseases such as smallpox to the natives, and this was referred to as the Great Dying. Thank you so much.